You are super selfless. You never think about yourself. You always think about others. In fact, people tell you you really ought to take care of yourself. But you know that that's just the path to selfishness. Well, what if I told you that you're already on the path to selfishness by only thinking of others? You might be confused by that. You might wonder, what do you mean? Well, that's our question today. Hi, everyone, and welcome again to another episode of the Eternity Changers Show. This is the show where every week I tell you all about the lessons that I'm learning in my business as I'm doing what I feel called to do. My name is Paul Allen Clifford, and I'm your host. And if you have any questions or comments, feel free to head on over to trinitydigitalmedia.com/contact, or you can always hit me up on Twitter, Paul Allen Cliff, PaulAlanClif. Or, of course, you can always leave a comment below. I sometimes forget to say that, but I really shouldn't, because it really does matter that you might be watching this on YouTube, you might be watching this over on trinitydigitalmedia.com, and if you are, leave a comment there. If you're subscribed to the podcast, happy post-National Podcast Day, September 30th, 2014. If you're subscribed to the podcast, just go ahead and head over to trinitydigitalmedia.com/contact and leave your questions or comments there. So, you might be a little confused. Why, you might be thinking, am I saying that when you're selfless, you're actually selfish? Now, it's not the case that I believe that selflessness is impossible. Let's get that out of the way right now. I remember I was in college and there was a friend of mine who was an agnostic, and he was telling me that he thought that selflessness was impossible, that you're always getting something out of it. Now, while it might be the case that you get something out of it, what makes it selfless is your primary reason for doing an action. Are you thinking, I really don't care if I get something out of this or not, I'm going to help somebody? Or are you thinking, man, I really hope that I get a good feeling about myself. I really hope someone notices how good a job I'm doing, etc. You see, the exact same action can have totally and completely different outcome. Well, not outcomes. It can be motivated by different motivations, and if that's the case, you can have two actions which look the same. One is very selfish, and the other very selfless. So that's the first thing I wanted to say, is that it's not the case that something which is helping others can never be selfless. No, that's not what I mean at all. What I mean is, in helping others, you might be denying even more people ways that you can help them. So, every action has a cost, what we call an opportunity cost in economics. So, I want you to consider the following situation, and this is an easy one to consider. When you're on an airplane, the flight attendant gives the safety directions and says, should there be a loss of cabin pressure, air mask will fall from the ceiling, pull that out, extend it completely, put the cup over your face, put the elastic band on the back and adjust it, and breathe normally. The oxygen will flow whether or not the bag fully inflates. That's number one. But the next thing is what confuses some people. If you are with small children or someone that needs help, put the bag over your own face first and then help out the other person. Why would they tell you to do something so selfish? Well, as it turns out, in the event of a loss of cabin pressure, if you lose consciousness before you're able to get this on your child, both of you could have problems. But if you get it on yourself first, then even if it takes an extra second, your child might lose consciousness, but they will come back, as opposed to you both lose consciousness and you both have problems. So you see the difference? In one case, what appears selfish is actually selfless. And in the other case, what appears selfless is actually selfish. Let me give you another example. You have the opportunity to help a person, but in order to do so, you must sacrifice your own health. That seems very, very selfless. And there are circumstances where you must think of others first. There are circumstances where you cannot stop and think about yourself. I mean, really, sometimes you have to be very sacrificial of yourself if you want to do what you're really made to do, if you want to be who you're really made to be. That's absolutely the case. But it could also be the case that you're being overly sacrificial because you want to get something out of it, or because you think that that's just the right thing to do, when in fact, if you take a little care of yourself, if you take care of your physical needs, because everyone has those, you've got to drink enough water every day, you've got to eat enough food every day, you've got to breathe enough, you've got some very basic needs, you've got to sleep a certain amount. If you deny all those for a long period of time, you're also denying any future situations where you could help out as well. So let me give you an example. Let's say that you run full out to help someone. You don't eat well enough. You don't drink enough water. You don't exercise. You don't take care of yourself in the most basic sense. And as a result, you die early. Whereas if you had recruited someone else to help as well, maybe you could take care of yourself a little bit better. And if you take care of yourself a little bit better, you would be around for many more years to help this person out. Or if they no longer needed your help for one reason or another, you could help out someone else. So what I'm really advocating is a long-term view, a view of helping as a marathon, not as a body-damaging sprint. So in running, we have kind of these two ideas, that you can run at less than full out for a longer distance, or you can run full out for a shorter distance. Usain Bolt is a sprinter. What that means is he does not hold back any of his energy for later. If he crossed the finish line, broke the world record, and then collapsed 2 seconds later and wasn't able to stand back up for 5 minutes, he's okay with that. Contrast that to someone who runs the Boston Marathon. If they run the first, let's say, 400 meters, They run that first 400 meters so hard and so fast that at the end of it they collapse and aren't able to even stand up for 5 minutes, let alone run the remaining 25.8 miles. I think that's right. Might have done the math wrong. But if they're unable to finish the rest of the race, they don't get credit for being number one after 400 meters. They get to be on the list of people who didn't finish. So in helping others, consider it a marathon, not a sprint. Remember, I'm not saying that there aren't situations where you might sprint and it might cost you dearly. There are those. But your life should not be characterized by doing everything at the expense of your own health, everything at the expense of your own sanity. What you want to cultivate is a sustainable, others-centered mindset. So if you empty out your checking account every paycheck to give all your money to someone else who really needs it, by the way, and yet because of that you lose a place to live, you lose your transportation, and then you can't go to your job to make the money to help others, then you might find that what you have in fact done is you've lessened the total amount of help that you can give to others. If instead you dialed that back to an amount where you can manage it, and here I don't want you to think, well, in order to manage it, I need 3 houses and 4 vacation rentals and a Ferrari. I need all that stuff to manage it. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about understanding that you have basic needs. You just do. I'm sorry, but that's the case. You have basic needs. So understand that you have basic needs and take care of them. Don't deny the basics unless it's a very extreme circumstance. Don't take care of others and hurt yourself in the process unless it's very, very extreme and you have no other choice. If you're called into something like that, then by all means, do it. But make sure, have leaders around you, have people that you trust, have people who you understand their willingness to share and to lead you well, so that you're not making the mistake of saying, well, I'm being selfless, when in fact you're actually being selfish. You're operating out of this need to be the savior to someone else. That's not your job. That job's taken. You can be an instrument, but very rarely are you supposed to die to take care of someone else, especially a situation where you can draw others in. Andy Stanley, who's a well-known pastor, says, only do what only you can do. What he means by that is some people will sacrifice what they can do to do things that they can draw other people into. So they could build a team to help this happen. But instead of building a team, instead of drawing others in, they're sacrificing themselves and they're sacrificing a greater amount of good that they can do. So think about how you can do the most good, not just how you can do a good amount for a short amount of time. And that will help you go out and change eternity. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share this show with others. That's the best way to help others to grow in what they do. And it helps me go out and change eternity. So I'd love it if you would do that, whether it's on YouTube or subscribing to the podcast, which I make available in both audio and video forms. So you can listen to it in your car where you can't be watching video, and you can watch it on your TV if you have the appropriate setup, if nothing else is on, or if you just think, I'd really rather grow myself and grow who I am. Do that, and that'll help get the word out. Until next time, this is Paul Allen Clifford with TrinityDigitalMedia.com.